Thanks for the note. By the way, I'll use this time to mention one person called Hayan. He is not with us anymore, but he had quite nice principle that he used to say to his students. I was one of his students, and it was KISS. Keep it stupid simple. Don't overcomplicate the stuff. But that's nothing that happened in our history of the web technologies and how the web cycle started, where did it go, and where are we now. Thank you all for coming to this talk. I would like to give one short word for the sponsors. Thanks for the sponsors for supporting this conference. And next year, there may be more. So who am I? As Goras mentioned, just a simple person. I'm a full-stack engineer, and my experience is decent. Why I say decent? Because I'm in the industry for more than 12 years. And it's like I've been here from the beginning of time, but no, there are some older people than me with much more experience and much more things to say, but they're afraid to talk. Doesn't matter. Today, I'll be your history teacher. I'm sorry that was your least favorite subject in the school, but today we'll have to dig in deeply behind what has happened from before and what is going on into the future. As I mentioned, the KISS principle, we will try to keep and see what is going on with that one. Okay, so into the early days of the web, what has happened? One person named Tim Berners-Lee, I start my talks with him because he's the icon of the whole World Wide Web. He just wanted to connect to computers and share the files between them, see the documents, don't take them, just to see them, observe them, and make them somehow linkable between each other and experience, from here I can see the other file over there and it's totally fine. What he did, he introduced also the HTML and created a simple, stupid web page. This is the first hypermedia web page that was already present in the system. By the DARPA project, this was the main thing that connected all the computers between them. And as we can see, it's pretty stupid and simple. We have some paragraphs, some headings, some links. We are missing some images maybe on the sides, but it's nothing. It delivers the content. It delivers what we need to see, what we want to see. We can go to the hyperlinks and see some more information. That's the reason why the internet is invented, to see the information and to be present to see the content. It's too ugly. Some designers will say this is nothing, this is stupid, some mocks. We don't see any fonts anywhere, it's just the normal regular font that they're using. So then they try to see, okay, let's do the styling in the web. They introduced the CSS. If you don't know that syntax, the door is over there, so please. With the CSS, we try to make the designs a bit more interesting for the people. There is green color, nice. There is something that we can achieve to attract the view of the person that is looking at the site. But at the end, not every browser was able to deliver the same experience as we wanted to, because HTML and CSS are declarative languages which are saying, hey, we want this to appear in a red color somewhere, but the browser is the one who is deciding how they will present that red color, where should it placed, and shouldn't be moved on left, on the right. It's on the browser side, not on the CSS. But after some time, everything was evolving, and that's quite great. This slide, I'm sure that you've never seen before, how the first servers were created, or what we have then to see all those web pages or hypermedia pages. We have the common gateway interface. It is used still these days. The purpose of this common gateway interface is to enable the handling of the dynamic data or the static data, if you like it more better, so that the content will be presented to the user. There are some servers all around. Whenever you try to access something or to communicate with something, you'll need to go through this common gateway interface. And this was the first server that was created. As you can see, it's almost simple as it is. Just a simple form sending a request to the server, which is calling the application. Then the communication is thrown back and back to the user. In the early days, there were form elements only. You can just submit the form. Done. It will maybe redirect. It will maybe stay on the same page. It doesn't matter. But at the end, we still see the same cycle. This is mostly used for submitting feedback, or in the early days when you had the table-driven design development, where you use the table element, you can see the subscribe button somewhere there, which is you enter your email and then you subscribe to the newsletter or form. And yeah, if you don't feel old, PHP was founded in 1995 and JavaScript was introduced that time. Next year, it will be 30 years when we have the PHP. And we still use it. We still use JavaScript, we still use PHP. Yes, PHP evolved in some time, but it's good to say that one of the first scripting languages on the web was PHP, and still goes on. Same goes for JavaScript, but on the client side. And then we have the rise of JavaScript. Does someone know the first name of JavaScript, what it was? Exactly. So the first name of JavaScript was Mocha. They tried with LightScript, they tried with something else, but at the end, they delivered from Mocha, they delivered the JavaScript endpoint. Why it is used? It is used to enhance and to extend the HTML and the CSS. Earlier, if you want to change the color of the button, if it is active or non-active, you can do it with JavaScript because CSS didn't have those selectors. But these days, it's not like that. And it was only made to use it with small changes to interact with the HTML and the CSS, nothing more. And then we have the browser capabilities. In every browser, the JavaScript is written differently. Why? There was no convention at that time. Nobody knew what it should look like. But somehow we struggled with all those problems. Expanding the front-end complexity. 2000s, rise of the APIs. We still have the same problem with JavaScript. We still have the same problem with the syntax. But nobody is willing to change anything about it. With the APIs, we found out that the backend server can send us some data. Pure data, nothing more. No HTML, no nothing, just pure data. We could use there in Salesforce, maybe in mobile apps, which were not at that time present that much, but we tried to evolve. And if we try to get to send a HR request with the simple JavaScript, that was the code that will look like. And it was quite complex to see, to track the errors, to know why do we have to open the GET request? I don't get it. But then, my favorite thing was introduced, jQuery. You put a $, you put a dot, you ask for the element. You put a $, you put a dot, and you ask for the GET request for the data. Simple. And we were like, nice. But you had to include it into the web page itself. 70% from the web pages at the moment are using jQuery. Almost every WordPress website that you know is using jQuery. Even though everything has matured, but we still keep the same. Now, the first time what we have introduced is the single-page applications with jQuery Mobile. What happened? We have everything loaded in the same page, and we have blocks which were hidden. Click on next, other block will appear, the one will hide. Quite nice thing. But the biggest thing that introduced into JavaScript was the JavaScript server side, or the Node.js servers. It was from 2009, and not really everybody used it at that time. It was just a still proof of concept. Let's see if everybody will try to use it. Hey, we have Java servers, so we don't need Node.js. We don't love JavaScript. We hate it. But okay, in some time everything will change. The biggest struggle from the whole web cycle is when we got the frameworks. JavaScript didn't have those capabilities at that time to present all of those functionalities that the frameworks produced. Hey, I can route my application in the front end. Wow, I don't need anything else. History API was introduced, and that's it. So AngularJS came to the point and says, we can create a build for our app, combine everything together. What? We should build the JavaScript? Who needs it? But with some problems, then React appears and says, okay, we'll fix the AngularJS problem, and you can use React. So the community divided. After some time, Vue.js appeared and says, we are going to fix the React problem, you can use us, and everything will be smooth. But nothing was smooth, they are still fighting. And if you see this guy down there, he's just watching, that's still jQuery. Then TypeScript was introduced, HTML5 was introduced, CSS3 standards were implemented into the browsers, and everything was smooth. Fine. Angular 2 says, the Angular team says, okay, we will not continue with this crap from AngularJS. Let's start from scratch. Implement TypeScript, implement all the other things for us, and everybody was happy. It was quite interesting to see Angular 2 in those days. And the first job ads were like, okay, let's move from AngularJS to Angular 2. Who would like to do that? Nobody still. There are some legacy projects left on AngularJS because nobody wants to transpile the code from AngularJS to Angular 2 or Angular 18 at the moment. But the browsers even more extended their capabilities. Everything was great, so we moved forward. Svelte came into the topic and says, hey, you ditched the whole shit from the top? Use us. It's great. The community divided even more. Then we have the React hooks, which says, Svelte has some difficulties. Let's don't use Svelte. Let's use React hooks. And all the developers from React were like, what are we going to do? We're going to learn a new type of framework? Yeah. The problem came that the learning curve was so hyped and was so big that when someone wanted to enter the front-end area, he would have to choose between all these frameworks and if he would like to use the old version or the new version. Quite complex, and we didn't need anything of that. Then we have Solid, which is fixing some stuff, but still we have the drawback of the framework and the burden that all the frameworks are creating. All the complexity with the build processes and everything that is connected with it. If someone knows JavaScript, they can do anything in the browser. But if they don't know Angular, they know only React, it's quite hard to get to know with the React or the Angular, vice versa. All these things are adding one more cycle, one more process into our CI/CD, which is saying we will need to build the front end. It was never a topic before. Why should I write some JavaScript code, JavaScript-like code, then build it, then have the JavaScript at the end, which we never understood what is going on there. But yeah, this burden keep on, and everything was piling up. And sometimes the build has taken for 5 minutes. On the talk before me, the guy had 30 minutes of a build in front end. Come on, it's just too much for something that is pure simple. The battle continues on. But let's put our thinking hats on and let's estimate. This is a simple component that needs to be built. Do you know what it is? One-time password field? Anybody familiar with that? Maybe. Can you estimate how much time and what technology would you use to create this thing? A couple of years ago, I was like, I'll do it in JavaScript, but it needs to be a one input field. Okay, 2 days, maybe 3 days. Let's see. And at the end, this thing is built with pure CSS. I cannot understand part of the code maybe, but at the end it does the job. It has one input element and one interesting style list. That's it. Nothing more. Why do we need to write JavaScript for this? No, we don't need to. We can integrate the validation for the input field. HTML5 gives us that out of the box. Why not? But it's a simple thing. Yeah, it looks complex, it feels complex, but it's plug and play. Copy, paste, use it. Then the CSS evolved much more and much more. We have the Flexbox or the one-dimensional layouts that are making our development days easier. Now the grids are the one that are making our developer days much, much more easier. There are the variables and also the transitions. There is one link I would like you, when you have time, to visit. It says you don't need JavaScript for that. All those drop-downs, all those input switches, all those checkboxes that are made to be an input switch somehow can be done with pure CSS. You don't need JavaScript for that. In one of my previous talks, I started the talk with, I came here to tell you not to write JavaScript code, or not to write that much JavaScript code. Because at the end, it rises the complexity. It can do the job by the browser itself. Everything evolved, everything evolved. The browsers had a lot of APIs which are included, and we can use them out of the box. So, my favorite meme. Does someone know the meme? The meme? No? Okay. Started from the bottom, now we are there. This is the early days. We had simple JavaScript manipulation on the DOM. That's it. Totally fine. On the backend side, we had everything. The single source of truth. We know what is the correct value. We know how the HTML should look like. We know from where should we get the data. The front end didn't have any knowledge about it. It was quite stupid and simple. Then, with the introduction of all those frameworks, into the backend side, we have every model into the library, connected to the database. Great, we have a lot of things. We don't need the router. We can route in front end, as we mentioned before. But the front end should also know all the data, all the models, and everything to be connected into the front end as well. Because when you send a request to the server returns you a JSON object. In the front end, you would love to know what kind of an object is that, and somehow to render it. But as the time has passed, we are on that side now, where we say, okay, let's keep back on the back end and keep the front end stupid and simple. See what I did there? HTMX, I'm sorry, but in my opinion, this will be the future of all this bullshit. Why? We have one single source of truth, and we render the data. We render what is correct. Simple cases, when you have a shop, online shop, you add an item to your cart, and then you pay for the item. Yeah, on the front end, you can do a lot of magic and tell the end user, hey, you bought the item, that's great, fantastic. But the backend, if the backend says, no, you don't have funds to buy that, that's it. The front end is a lie. But in this case, the front end will be the representation of the single truth that there is. And now we are trying to get back to the simplicity. It's minimal, nothing specific to include. You can handle the single page feeling out of the box, just with that simple library. Yeah, The server routing is cool again because the server knows the paths. He knows everything that needs to be there. You don't need to hide the content into the front end and then just swipe it up. We are focusing on the server rendered pages because, as I mentioned before, single source of truth, server is giving us the page, not the front end. And my favorite, vanilla JavaScript Renaissance. Why? JavaScript has a lot of things at the moment that are implemented into the browsers. So instead of doing complex things with the frameworks, you can just do a fetch request and it will be totally fine. Why vanilla JavaScript? Because you don't need to build it or transpile it from TypeScript to JavaScript and to put it into the browser. Simple lines of code can give you a lot of bigger solution than complexity. We don't have much dependencies, and if you see how big were the files there for the JavaScript before with the frameworks, then you'll need to repack them, put them into chunks, and send them to the front end. In this case, you don't need it. In my personal experience, when writing application with HTMX, I have written 10 lines of JavaScript max, just to handle some stupid errors that were appearing and nothing more. Everything worked outside of the box. And SPA. So, where are we now? We are trying to balance some stuff. This talk is not to say that the frameworks are bad, you don't need to use them. No. This talk is to give you an overview that you have to balance your things. Pick the right tool for the project. If you're doing mobile apps, then you have some other frameworks. Ionic, if someone knows, has support with Angular and React. Why not? It's totally fine, because into the mobile apps, you will not see those problems that you experience on the website. And when you think of the project from outside of the box, why shouldn't we complicate it? Because the project and the code will outlive the team that is already developing it. Why should we leave the burden for the next team that will come to fix or to continue with the integration of the project to fix our own crap in complexity? Let's keep the flow and keep it quite straightforward. Yeah, HTML5, CSS3, it has taken all over the browsers, and it has same implementation everywhere, JavaScript as well. We have some powerful APIs that we can include in the browser somehow, and they're already included, but we can use them with JavaScript out of the box. That out of the box thing is the one that is driving us to the simplicity, because you know that you already have it there. The server will render the page, and the server will know that on that DOM element you have the specific functionality. That's it. And let's see how we can finish our cycle at the moment. So we started from stupid HTML, we had some designs, we had some JavaScript to manipulate with the DOM, then we introduced the frameworks, complexity, and now we are going back to the same position. Same position, just simple render. The render is cheaper than writing into the shadow DOM. The render is cheaper when you use it in simple JavaScript way. You don't need to complicate the stuff. Yes, JavaScript frameworks are adding the power, but at the cost of complexity, as I mentioned before. Yes, depends on the project. Try to use your frameworks. Why not? Okay, the future is striking a balance between powerful, functional, and simple maintainable code. The maintainable code is the one that we are going to leave to the other generations. I have been fixing some projects which were with legacy code and it was spaghetti code, and I was blaming the developers. Yes, they're the one that needs to be blamed, not the project itself. When we are looking at the functionality, you will see that as of this moment, every functionality is the same. You have form submission, sending data to the server. That's it. Some dynamic sliders maybe, or some graphs, but what are they? Just a simple representation of the whole single truth. And yeah, we have the rise of the tailored solutions. When you see a new project is coming to the deck, you're trying to create a tailored solution only for that project. It will not be the same for every project that it will come on the deck. Some projects will ask for the frameworks. Some projects will be the ones that will be quite simple. It's like tailored shirts. When I come to pick a shirt, they will measure me up and say, okay, this shirt is perfect for you. But not the biggest one, not the smallest one. Just this tailored thing. And that would be all from my talk. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. And thanks for the conference for bringing us all here together.
A round of applause for Alex.